get used to other people away from the soccer. From the soccer, what's wrong
Oh my
with
God, Jack.
football? You've got.
Who are you?
Please edit that out. Welcome to Lose to Win, the podcast with myself, Jack, Josh, and we have our friend Ben back. Welcome, guys. How are you all doing?
Very good.
Good evening, boys. Very well, thank you. Very well. Good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back, Ben, to admit.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, we've missed you, bud. We've missed you.
Did you?
How was everybody? How's your trick-or-treating going?
Had quite a few knocking on the door. I missed quite a lot of it, to be fair, as I was a little bit late back from work. But yes, I got home and my dear lady wife had completely decorated the front of the house in cobwebs and spiders, and there's ghosts in the kitchen, and there's a disco light on and Halloween themed music playing, and children, one as a ghost, one as a skeleton.
Amazing.
So
Lovely.
yeah, she loves it. She's embraced it. The kids have embraced it. They've had a lovely time. But thankfully, people have stopped knocking on our door now.
If you say that, yeah, I'm sure we get interrupted now a couple of times.
Yeah, we'll get like a full comedy sketch of like almost sounded like a fake.
Oh, hang on a minute, lads. There's someone at the door.
It's actually just Ben snacking on the sweets.
Thankfully, the kids have taken them all. I think there's about 3 chocolate eyeballs left, and that's about it. So happy days. It means I won't eat them.
Can't do too much damage with that.
How about you, Jack, then? I'm not sure. Halloween's
Yes, mate.
Yeah, go on.
I've been out and about with the neighbour and his son and my daughter this evening. We braved the weather, took a couple of brollies, and yeah, they came back pretty happy with some sweets and seen some friends out and about, which is nice as well. So yeah, outside of the weather being horrific, it's been absolutely fine. Been really good.
Good. Well, I'll just say for me, because Halloween is not really a massive thing. Being single and having no kids or anything, it's quite chill. And also, I live down the end of an alley, so people just don't come down here.
Dude, you're prime, mate. All you have to do is put a black sheet over yourself and Uncle Fester. There you are.
Let's say, rumour has it, Josh, you don't need a mask.
You could be out there terrifying the neighbours, just sat outside your house, not speaking, just sat there.
To be honest, I probably could lurk in the corner of the alley because there's a light. The way the light hits the front of the alley, if people turn and look at me,
get arrested for doing stuff
I'd have this
like that,
massive shadow across my face, so it'd be quite interesting to scare people.
You'll get some unwanted visitors living near Ashley Road, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, did any of you attempt to buy the snackage then, the sweets and that? Yeah. How's the week been?
I've had a mini bag of Haribo, but other than that, I've refrained from digging in.
Fair enough.
I have had a few sweets, definitely. I've also had a few little chocolatey things. But on the whole, I've been all right, actually. Been all right. Oh, the kids are back.
There we go. So my week, I know you just asked, Josh. So last week I had like a really focused week. I think some of the recent, it's worth mentioning, some of the recent guests have been super inspiring and to the extreme in some cases, and even with Alex's, it's a different story, and kind of that kind of moment of realization that he had with Steve when he mentioned about that. The amount that he had lost since joining or hadn't lost since joining is kind of a bit of an eye-opener for me. Frustratingly, I only lost 0.4, but I was expecting more, and I'm hoping there's a bit of a lag because I'm back on it as well this week. There's no reason not to be, and I'm hoping that it kind of pays dividends this week as well, and just to keep chipping away at it. But I don't think I've ever done anything more than about above 1.2. I know everybody is different in terms of how you lose weight and how that all works, but I've never been able to hit those like crazy numbers of like 3 kilograms in a week and whatever.
It's a difficult one though, isn't it? Because it's completely dependent on your body and how much actually you've got to lose in the first place. So I think generally if you've got a lot more, because you are a big guy anyway, you're tall and you've got a big frame. So and I wouldn't put you in the sort of like massively overweight category.
Oh, yeah.
So I think you'd struggle to lose those sort of higher numbers anyway. And I think if you're setting a target of whatever your target might be, say 1 kilo a week or half a kilo a week, that's as we've spoken about before, that's the kind of sustainable and better way of doing it, because you've got a lot more chance of keeping it off in the long run. So I wouldn't feel down about that. I would think if you're I mean, like I've said before, my target's half a kilo a week, or it used to be. I think if you're within those parameters and you lose a bit more, then happy days. And if you don't, if you're just under it, like 0.4 is just under, that's, happy days. I think a loss is a loss, so that's a win for me.
Yeah, I would say so. I was going to say, I mean, you're doing the right things, and you lost some weight. Good week. Like I wouldn't worry too much about specifically. It's 0.6 less than I wanted to, because you never know. This week it could be the other way, but as long as you're chipping away slowly at it, then that's probably the best thing to do. It's mainly just focusing on, I know I'm doing the right things, and at the end of the week, regardless of how much I'm losing, I am losing weight, and therefore going in the right direction.
Yeah. I don't know about you two, but are we in agreement? We think there's a sustainable way of losing weight and an unsustainable losing weight, and sometimes that number that we crave is like to get into that top 10, and I swear I'm not diminishing anybody's achievements in what they've done, but sometimes some of those extreme ones where they're kind of gone, I've not eaten for 3 days, and sometimes people are joking, and other times people are meaning it, and I know in times that I've had not great weeks where I've had to go, Christ, it gets to like Wednesday evening and go, I've got to consider absolutely everything that goes past my lips now, even having a drink I'm concerned about. And then I've lost more by doing those weeks, but never really kind of gained anything. Last week was a lot more sustainable. I got there and I wasn't hungry. I wasn't in a position where I've starved myself to achieve this. And if that means that I lose 0.4 rather than 1 kg or 1.2 as my highest, but then fluctuate massively the week after, I don't want to do that. I want to be sustainable with it. And again, this is where I mean about the lifestyle change rather than a diet.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
That's definitely the key. If you can do that, if you can enjoy a week where you would class as what you're eating as a normal diet, a normal intake of food, you're not hungry, you're not thirsty, you're not having to starve yourself, and you get to the end of the week and you've lost half a kilo, that's a win. Because all that means you're managing to sustain a normal diet, a normal food intake, and you're not worrying about it, and you're not having to consciously think about it all of the time. If you can get to that point, then you know you can do it. And then you can, of course, if you want to have a little treat, you want to have a pizza on a Friday night or a chippy tea or whatever, you can do it and know that you'll still be okay the following week, because you'll go back to your normal intake, and it will be sustainable.
Well, I've started like looking at things not like really long term, but just like slightly longer. So instead of going, okay, because I don't calorie count to the number, but like I keep an eye on it, So if I was going to say, okay, I don't look at it day by day per se as much as I used to. I go, okay, what can I have in the week? To hit a rough target in the week, because that way, if I feel like a Saturday I'm out and I'm having lunch somewhere, I'm not worried about that lunch. Okay, I'm being a little bit more careful with what I eat, but then I know that that's within my weekly allowance rather than my daily. Does that make sense? And I don't go home thinking, I've eaten so much today, I've had X number of calories probably, and then it doesn't set me back, because then I can just know, well, the next day I'll just have a few less. It's like, and that doesn't affect me. So I don't know if that's the best way to look at it, but it's kind of slightly a little bit more long term, and not worrying about the small things here and there. And as long as I know I'm doing the right things and I'm not indulging too much, and I step on the scales and go, I'm good.
Yeah, but I think that's fairly normal. I think if you have a day where you think like you've had too many calories, or you've overstepped it slightly, and the next day you just knock back a little bit, I don't see an issue with that, because it's a conscious thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're subconsciously doing it. You're actually going, I had quite a lot yesterday, so maybe I'll just curb it back a little bit. And that's kind of what you need to do, I think, to start with, certainly, until it becomes more habitual and it becomes more consistent. I don't have a problem with that. I don't calorie count. I just have a rough idea based around what I eat on a daily basis. And occasionally I'll go over that, and occasionally I won't have quite as much. So it balances out ultimately in the end, I think. Yeah, so I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said, Jack, then you had 0.4. How did you do, Ben? Were you there last week?
0.1.
Oh.
And I didn't have to take anything off.
So
that's all right then. Bonus.
Do you know what though? I was a little bit disappointed, because I thought it was going to be more. I'm aiming again, because I was talking a bit before about how I'd changed my diet, and I'd trying to go on to more protein rather than carbs. And the first week I lost 0.5 kilo, which my target is 0.5 kilo. And the second week I was on course for that as well. So I was a bit confused when I weighed in because I was only 0.1. I should have been around about 0.5, and I wasn't. And I think I just felt a bit bloated that day. I don't know why. I just said, sometimes you feel a bit bloated and not quite yourself, and I just felt a bit like that. So I had a bit of a naughty weekend though. The weekend just gone because family was down, so we went out for dinner and we had a few drinks and stuff. So I'll probably just have to try a little bit harder this week. But I think the shift in, I was talking to Steve about it, and I think the shift in changing, because I'd plateaued, changing up that diet just a little bit to try and get your body to try and use the energy sources in a slightly different way to kickstart it again. I'm hoping that's working. I think it'll take a few weeks, but I can see the benefits so far. So fingers crossed. This is a kind of a watch this space for this season. Really, I'm going to try it for the season and see what a difference it makes. And fingers crossed, I'll start getting that weight off again.
Absolutely
amazing.
Well, I lost 0.6 this week.
Nice.
After the 1.5 or something the week before. So steadily going in the right direction. As I said to you guys before, I wasn't sure I was going to make it. So
fair play, mate.
And I didn't have the best of weeks, so I was thrilled when I got to the scales and was like, this is good. Because well also it means I've still got my grace week for last man standing.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, speaking of, shall we run into the roundup?
Do it, mate. Far away.
So I'm going to refrain from all of Steve's analogies because last week I just confused myself, let alone the audience, really, with the grasshopper thing.
So he sent the lawyers round. That's what he's done.
I love that.
He did have a good laugh at me about it, though, to be fair.
I don't quite know what Steve's talking about there.
Let's just kick off with the week's total weight loss as a league then. So 31.6 kilos to go with the 20.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. That's what fell away this week, with every team contributing, some spectacularly so, we might add, and 4 players hitting milestones. So it means that in just 2 weeks into the season, we've already lost more than the Kylie. So,
wow,
for context, 52.1 for us as counting, and Miss Minogue is 46 kilos reportedly. I'll be surprised if she weighs that. So we're already over that. Greens had 8 out of 9 of their players losing weight for a combined loss of 10.2 kilos. While Purples were 6 for 6, Jack, you were, for 8 kilos.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. 4 of the other 6 teams had 6 or more players losing weight. So it's the best start to the season that I can remember. So let's keep that going in general.
Really good. Yeah, really good.
The matches themselves were kind of all classics, really. Plenty of goals, but no one winning or losing by more than a single goal. So that meant the scales were all important, as they should be. So Reds and Yellows were both victorious on the pitch, only to see their opponents surge past them once the weigh-in results were added, while Greens and us Blacks won out after a pair of 3-all pitch draws with the Blues and Whites respectively. So heavy lies the head of that wears the crown, eh, Ben?
Yeah,
last season's all-conquering Blues were undone by a pair of green milestones.
Yeah.
We had Ravnath lost 1.7 kilos to complete his 5%. Very well done. While Tim Winrose shed 2.6 kilos to reach 15%. He's on a roll. Those 6 goals were precisely the green margin of victory over the reigning champions. So there we go. Elsewhere, Kevin and Dimmy cancelled out one another's bonuses for Purples and Yellows respectively, but both deserve to be in the winning side of recognition for joining Tim in the elite 15% club. So
good work.
Sorry, Dim, a better luck when you hit your 20%. Huge congratulations to our 4 milestone men who combined loss of 7.3 kilos this week. So very top work. Very good going.
Well done.
Amazing.
Last man standing. So 15 players fell by the wayside in last man standing, with 10 more surviving only by giving up their grace week. So that leaves 57 players still in the running. Don't forget, though, the goals will be awarded to everyone who reaches the last 30. So that could be as,
of course.
Hopefully not as early as next week, but anytime soon.
Could be raining goals pretty quick, pretty soon.
That can be a real game changer. So if 7 or 8 of one team gets that far, so it's worth digging deep to make sure you're not on the wrong side of the result like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I have to admit I haven't checked with Blacks about how many we have, but I'll speak to them soon when we're leaving, or I'll speak to a few later. For the first time I can remember, we've got a player losing more than 2 kilos and still finding themselves outside of Team of the Week.
Wow.
So Jesus, unfortunately, is the man with his face pressed against the glass, while our new boy Ian Wood leads the Team of the Week from the Purples, I believe.
Superstar Ian.
Yeah.
Yes.
With 3.1 kilo loss.
Wow.
So George,
that's massive.
With 2.4 is the only survivor from last week's side, having lost 4.39% of his starting body weight in just 2 weeks of the season.
Wow.
I know. Unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah. So the Team of the Week, so we've got Ian with 3.1, Luke with 2.8. Good on you, Luke, mate.
Yeah,
amazing.
John,
Luke.
my mate John, 2.8. Scott Hardy with 2.6. Tim Winrow with 2.6. And then George at the bottom again with 2.4. So stunning one, really. I don't know if I can hit those numbers. I just don't think I can. I feel like I would really struggle to hit those numbers unless I was like ill.
Yeah, me too.
So
I think I did
Neil
once by
mouth.
accident. Yeah, I think I did once by accident. I think we played golf, Jack, and I was massively dehydrated.
Oh, in the summer?
I think so. Because I wasn't expecting it, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, God, I've lost like 2.4 kilos, and that was like weird, but I think most of that was literally fluids that I left on the golf course in 30-degree heat.
Yeah.
Well, it's an amazing loss anyway. Team of the Week is insane.
Yeah, fantastic. Well done, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, incredible. So the Blacks and Oranges sit at the top of both the main league and the Scales League with 100% records.
Done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thrilled.
well done.
Reds lead the Pitch League with 2 wins out of 2, just 1 point ahead of the Yellows. Next week is the last chance for Reds and Whites to use their incentive scheme bonus goals, which is kind of bad news for their opponents. So for us, we're playing the Reds, who have 3, I believe.
They
have to use it. Yeah. And the Yellows are coming up against the Whites. So they'll have had 2 inside 3 weeks used against them.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't have used ours against the Yellows, to be fair. We had a bit of a surprise. We had a surprise percentage. Vic didn't know he did his percent, God love him, in his first week.
Yeah, that's what we were saying on the pod, didn't we? He said, because me and Jack saw him in the weight room.
We were stood him do it. Watch him do it.
Yeah, he didn't know. He was like, I didn't know.
We had to encourage him to get his shirt off, didn't we, Jack? Or you encouraged him to get his shirt off, didn't you, Jack? So to get the loss, or someone did, Steve.
Steve did, yeah. Not knowing,
go on, take it off.
Yeah. Very
he just
wanted
to see his pecs.
Yeah, see that incredible body.
I know Steve's game. You got to watch him.
Definitely.
But yeah, so we used our 2 in the first week because we didn't think anyone had hit any milestones, and then old Vic piled in with his. So we could have saved. But even if we'd saved it for the Greens, to be fair, those 2, they're hitting their 2 milestones. Timmy was like, oh yeah, we got 2 this week. So I was like, oh well, there's no way. You can't. It's almost impossible to overturn 2 milestones.
Well, unless you had a game like
you have a 6-0 on the.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But they're very rare, aren't they? They're a bit of anomalies, those. But we had a great game. We had a great game on the pitch. We were 3-0 up, and they got it back to a 3-all draw.
Yeah,
so it was a cracking game.
For the first time in a while, I was there quite late for me. Obviously, I drove back, so I missed the first game entirely. I had just heard it was 2-1 on the pitch to the Reds. You were in the second game, was that right, Ben? Yeah. So I did catch some of your game. I basically caught the second half, I think.
Right.
So I caught all the Greens goals. I missed all of yours.
Yeah. A slight unfortunate a collapse on our behalf. I don't think we collapsed. That's not fair. The Greens played really, really well. It was a really good game. We did kind of lose our way a little bit in the middle of the second half, but it is what it is. It was a very close, contested game, and that was good fun to be involved in. So
I heard quite a bit of this may be unfair, uncharacteristic shouting from you, Ben, on the sideline. I think.
Moi?
Well, I don't know if it was you, to be honest. It seemed quite intense as a game. In the second half when I saw it. So
there was some a little later in the game there was some
just competitive
unhappy yeah but hopefully that's all blown over. It wasn't
nothing like that.
I love a bit of bants, me. I was giving them a bit of jip, which especially as I know most of them very well, so it's only a bit of a laugh. So
Anyway.
I didn't mean to upset anybody. If I did, I apologise.
Oh no! I was just, I just found it quite entertaining standing there and listening to. There was quite a lot of general shouting from both sides. Just getting people organised and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is, as well now, don't forget we got a massive target on our back, so everyone wants to beat us, which is brilliant. I love that because it means everyone's trying their best to give us a good pasting, which is fair. I totally get that. And if we can inspire people to save up all their milestones against us every week to inspire them to lose weight, then brilliant. It's working. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
Ever the team of generous spirit there.
Always, mate.
Yeah. I noticed Big Lukey being a part-time manager. I think he might be carrying a knock, isn't he? Carrying an injury. So saw him on the sideline with his cap and
I loved it.
Orders.
I loved it, to be honest, mate.
It suited him perfectly, didn't it?
Yeah, I loved it. I actually said to him before he went on, I said, mate, we need you to shout like all the time and do like the subs and stuff because
you don't have to encourage him. He loves it.
I know. It does it when all the other teams are playing as well.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, love it though. And fantastic weight loss for him as well. Get really back on it.
Yeah, he's going great guns. He's going great guns.
So we'll see. So it's generally time to dig deep for everyone, but in particular, obviously, as I was saying, the blacks and yellows have got a bit of a disadvantage this week for that incentive scheme. So it's good motivation for us and hopefully for the yellows. Just looking forward to the games. Have been really competitive, like in a new team so far. I hope everyone else is, at least.
Definitely.
I say new, not drastically new, as we said, but it feels new. Like
adjusted.
Yeah,
adjusted teams. Yeah, it's certainly is new for me, and as a new group that we've managed to get together in the purples, and I think they've all fitted in well. As I explained, I think last week on the pod, and I think to you, Josh, it was tough the first week because I think 2 or 3 of them didn't make it to the friendly week for one reason or another. So last week was their first weigh in rather than their first loss.
Yeah.
So and we lost by a goal, which was absolutely gutting
us,
based on that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this week it flipped around. We lost by a goal on the pitch, but won overall. So, and I told him last week was the first time that's ever going to happen. And the week just gone, that's what needs to keep happening, and that's where we are with it. And it was a mad game. I don't know if anybody hung around. We were the graveyard shift, and it was the weather that was certainly testing conditions to say the least. And
it came in, didn't it?
Yeah, certainly did. And
sideways.
Probably about 2 minutes to the end for me to equalise. I managed to hit it far too hard. Standard me trying to put it in the top bins, and
I remember that.
I hit the angle of the goal. I managed to hit the post and the crossbar in one hit, and it was just that was I could have just placed it. I could have just passed it in, and it was just one of those frustrating nights. But the weight did what it needed to do, and what was quite nice is the new guys to see that happen.
Yeah,
because it's all very well continuing winning on the pitch. You then don't appreciate what the weight has done.
No,
if you win overall, but if you lose on the pitch and you're able to turn it around by weight loss, that's why staying in the games on the pitch is also really important. If you're losing, if you're within a couple of goals, you've always got a chance.
That's right. Of course you
do. It's
I agree.
I think just stripping it back and myself and Josh are in communication with the guys at Man v Fat HQ. I want to get somebody on there that's been with the organisation for a long time to understand how it's evolved and how the idea came about and what difference they feel they're making in people's lives, because I think it's a big thing for just our group, and obviously now branching out and understanding how other groups are doing it seems to be really important to a lot of people. But I think it's just a brilliant idea. I think there's obviously tweaks and everything that people can improve with anything they do. But I just think generally it's awesome, and I'm glad not just the fact that I get to do this once a week with you boys, but also now consider you two as really good friends and everybody else that I've met there as well. It's really important, and it's it's certainly helped my mental health as well as my health for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with that as well. You know, I'm to be fair, I'm one of these people who kind of just jumps in and just goes, and I'll just speak to everyone all the time, non-stop.
Yeah.
To the point of annoying everyone. I just get involved. But I love it. I don't think I'll ever leave. You know, I already say to myself, I know I'm young, but like,
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I've been talking about that for a while. Because obviously, me and Jack, we've been there since the off, and we've been there. It's over 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I don't think I genuinely had intended to be there continuously. I think when I first thought about it, I thought I wanted to lose X amount of weight, and that'll probably take 3 seasons. And I remember talking to you, Jack, and I think Ramsey as well, when we first started, and we've said, I think we all said, oh yeah, we'll probably do it for 3 seasons, maybe 4, see how we go with the weight loss.
Yeah.
And here we are, 8 seasons later, and it becomes more than just the weight loss thing.
It's our church,
that's the main part. Yeah, totally. You know, we've got a great group of guys down there who all get on for the most part, and you know, it's more than just coming and playing the game and losing a bit of weight. There's a really nice atmosphere down there, and everyone seems to get on really well, and everyone sort of, you know, has a quick chat before the games and mingles, and it's just a really nice feeling. It's just nice to be involved with, and it's like you say, people like, you know, Luke, and there's plenty of people who come down early and hang around for the whole night, and that's great, and that's what it should be about. So I think it's important for everyone to remember that as well. I think that's important to remember, that it is a weight loss journey fundamentally. Of course, the football is a great part of it, and we love playing the game, but it is about having fun and with like-minded people who are all on a similar journey. So
absolutely.
Just to kind of reiterate that fact.
I think I had a discussion with someone on the sideline, not to go off on too much of a tangent. I can't remember who. I think it might have been Ollie, actually, from your Blues, and we were talking about like people like Nick in your team as the great example of someone who I love having. Kind of that kind of person on our team. I just think that's fundamental to the league as a whole, because I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but he'd never played football before he'd started. You know, I'm not sure how confident he is now. I haven't seen him, to be fair, in a while playing, but
he's getting better. He's really enjoying it.
But as an example, he's there consistently, from what I can tell. He loses weight consistently. You'll know better than me, Ben. And that's just exactly what the league's for. And
exactly
even though he's had no experience with it, as far as I can tell, he's really enjoying being there and being part of the community. And
definitely,
that's what
he'll definitely agree with you, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know Connor won't mind me saying this on. Sorry, I know Connor won't mind me saying this on our team, but he's another fantastic example of that. He's absolutely phenomenal for us in the team and the league in general. But as I say, he maybe he's not the most confident of footballers, but he doesn't care about that. He just gets involved, you know. He just does his best,
and that's definitely what it's all about.
And everyone loves him for it. So
yeah.
One thing that I noticed a while back, Mark Simpson, I think a couple of times referred to it as club. I don't know. I'll speak to you down at club or something, and I didn't laugh at that, but it was almost like what a funny name to call it. But the more and more I think about it, he's bang on. It is almost like a social club for us now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even more so when we're at Hamworthy going for beers after, which probably was a little counterproductive. But do you know what I mean? We had, if you think in the heat of the height of summer when we were there, what did we have, like 20, 25 of us all sat around having a beer together?
Yeah.
Where else does that happen? Like,
totally.
Other than a stag do, when does that happen? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it certainly has that feel about it. If I'm going to do a little bit of digging, and I'll say on here so the people from Man v Fat Bournemouth are aware, I do a little bit of digging, a little bit of searching, and see if it's possible that I might try and organise a little like Christmas get together for everyone.
Hamworthy.
Maybe a Hamworthy, yeah. It's a good shout, actually. I didn't think about it, but just somewhere for us all to get together, have a bit of a booze. People can carry on and go out for the night. I'll do it on a Saturday night or whatever. And
oh God,
yeah,
I'm not going down a Thomas trip again.
maybe a little Christmas get together and kind of away from club in inverted commas, and just let especially some of the new people get used to other people away from the soccer. From the soccer, what's wrong with me? From the football.
Oh my God, Jack!
You got to please edit that out.
Are you?
Jesus Christ! Shoot me now. Anyway, I think that's a good time to move on, Josh. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Let's move on then. Some news and just general stuff we wanted to talk about. So the Ballon d'Or, as the winner was announced. I have to admit, if you'd asked me before it started, and if I hadn't seen it at all and known, you said, "Oh, who won the Ballon d'Or?" I would have just assumed it was Erling Haaland, actually. I wouldn't have assumed it was Messi. Yeah. I just would have assumed it was Erling Haaland. Yeah, but I
don't understand that. I genuinely don't understand how Messi's won it. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic footballer. He's won it now 6 times or something like that. Brilliant. But he's kind of like, there are footballers now playing at a much higher level.
I think it's his achievement, Ben. I don't know if you forgot that he won the World Cup.
Yeah.
That's the first time he's done
it. I get that.
He captained his team to the first World Cup in God knows how many years, and he
that is true.
Led that team, didn't he? He was everything.
I will just say that Emi Martinez won that final for them, but we'll gloss over that for now. Yeah, don't like him.
That's a fair point. I'd forgotten about the World Cup, to be fair, because it's Argentina. I tend not to remember that.
I appreciate that he won the World Cup. I do. I really appreciate, and I appreciate that he genuinely is the best. But part of me feels like that award was given out of sentiment, because they know that that's it. It's potentially the last time he could win it, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I don't know how the voting works. I genuinely don't know.
I can explain if you like. So Henry Winter, who's the chief football writer for The Times, I think, he is the only person from the UK that got the vote. And so what they do is they pick each chief football writer or most influential football writer in each country that belong to FIFA, and they all get a vote. And he cast his vote, and he went with Messi and explained his reasons why on TalkSport today, actually.
Oh, okay.
And he did have Haaland as a very strong second, hence why I'm pretty sure everybody else did as well.
Oh, I would have thought so, yeah.
And I think the fact that he won the treble and did everything else in club football, I don't think the Ballon d'Or has got a great deal of legs left in it in its current format. I think there is, and if you think about all of the other prizes that were given out today, like Jude got young player or whatever, and then you've got like, I don't think there's an individual award for a goalkeeper. I might be wrong. And as always, it's the goal scorer that generally gets it. I know there's been a few like Luka Modric and others that aren't your number 9 goal scorers or necessarily like Messi, but somebody that does get all the goals. It's never your centre backs. It's never your keepers, really. Yeah, so I think there needs to be like almost like they do with a team of the year. And somebody in each position gets it. So you've got a chance of 2 centre backs getting it. You've got a chance of wing backs getting it or left backs getting it or whatever that looks like. I just think it's. But it was almost predictable. I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. And I think the best way to think about it is he's not winning it next year, is he?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Playing it, and he's done now for that. And I'd suggest that Ronaldo, unless Ronaldo goes and wins the Euros, I think this summer or next summer, I don't think there's much chance of him winning it again either. I think that was kind of the passing of the baton last night.
Yeah.
And you've got players like Mbappe, Haaland, Vinicius Junior, Bellingham, Saka, Julian Alvarez, all of these incredible players. It's what's nice to see when they do like the rank of like 1 to 10 or 1 to 15 or whatever it looks like. You look down that list and you go, that list each time, it kind of generationally is getting stronger. You could go through like the 15 this time 10 years ago and you go, oh, there's some ropey names on there that never actually did anything or become anything within the game too substantial. You look down that list now, you could have a big old battle between Bellingham, Alvarez, Haaland and Mbappe, I would say, is the top 4 at the moment. You couldn't pin your finger on who's going to win it, and it all depends on where they potentially move to, especially someone like Mbappe. I don't think he's ever winning it at PSG again, unless they win the Champions League. I think it's exciting to see that prospect and that future in that list.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I completely understand why Messi won it. I really do. I just personally believe it should be whoever's been the best footballer in the year. That's the design of the award.
Yeah.
And I can't argue, I don't think many people can argue that Erling Haaland has been.
Well, that's safe. So I just City was something else, wasn't it?
So especially what he's taken City to do. I know they've always been a fantastic team, but they've broken through that Champions League barrier and won a treble and he scored X amount of goals in probably the most competitive league in the world. So it's just I understand why he's won it. I would have picked Erling Haaland if it was my choice.
Yeah, me too.
It's almost like the Eurovision Song Contest, and it is all done under political as well. I think they all get in cahoots and pick who they think together and go from there. Maybe not as blatant as that, but I think this is the passing of the torch, and I think next year will be, oh my God, I don't know who's going to win it. This year it just felt inevitable.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that, really.
Anything else on the Ballon d'Or?
That was great. I think it's great that Jude's won the young player. I think he well deserved, and he's absolutely tearing it up in it. So, long may his career continue, and I hope he manages to stay fit, and I hope he manages to stay grounded, because he's going to be a massive player for England. Over the next decade.
I think staying grounded is the most important thing.
Definitely.
He's got such a good family, and he's so screwed on. You hear how he talks.
Yeah, he does seem to be.
Yeah, but
mature above his years by miles.
I'm not going to dare compare him directly, but as an example, we know what Dele Alli. We know what happened to Dele Alli. As an example,
exactly.
So I'm just. I don't think he's going to be like that, by the way, at all.
I hope he's just got good people around him. He seems to have, and I think that's key, isn't it?
His family seems like bang on. Just one question. Do either of you know who the last English winner of the Ballon d'Or was?
Overall?
The last English winner, the last English winner of the Ballon d'Or.
Michael Owen.
Was it?
That's correct.
Think it was earlier than. Oh, was it Owen? Fair play.
Yeah. Nobody has won it since. No Englishman's won it since.
2002, was it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy, really, isn't it?
He was pretty special in his day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, if that guy without injuries.
Unbelievable. I'll never forget that night in Munich.
No, I remember watching it with my parents and going out into the street and celebrating it.
Yeah, man. Incredible.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, next thing, there's been it's getting to that time of the year, isn't it? Manager turnover. We just got into that.
Shotguns are getting ready for the managers and the turkeys.
Funnily enough, not in the Premier League, which we'll come back to potentially. But I know as a QPR fan, Ben, you've just got a new manager in. Now, you'll have to educate me because I've not followed the Championship too much this season. So, in your opinion, did it need to happen? Did you need a new manager?
Do you know what? It's a really difficult one, because Ainsworth was a bit of a fan favourite at our club for when he played for us in the sort of 2010s, 11, a bit earlier than that. Sorry, when we came up, early sort of mid 2000s. He was a big player for us. So it was really nice to have him appointed. I think a lot of people have been calling for it for quite a long time. But the reality is that our club's in a bit of a pickle, and he's probably not. He wasn't the right guy to bring in at the time, I don't think. He'd done sort of okay at Wickham. He'd been at Wickham for like 10 years, and he'd done okay. He got them promoted and then relegated again. So his style of football is probably not what our fans are looking for. So I felt it was a bit of a double-edged sword, really. Yes, he probably needed to go because I was hoping every game he was going to get something out of it. And we haven't actually, ironically, been playing that badly. We've just had some, bit of bad luck, really. But I just don't know. I don't think it was the right time for him. So they've made an interesting choice on a new coach, and they've done it fairly quickly. And I believe this is a coach that they were looking at last year. But he was in contract, and I don't think they could afford his get out clause or whatever. There was a reason behind it. But Martí Cifuentes, who is Spanish.
Yeah. How long have you been practicing that name before we came on the pod?
I knew who he was. Not going to lie, I've never heard of him. But I had a quick look into it, and he's had quite a successful career in sort of Scandinavian countries over the last few years: Norway, Sweden, Denmark. And he's always done quite well. Left them in a better place than he found them, and he plays quite a lot of possession-based football, playing out from the back. So it could be quite interesting.
Who doesn't do that these days? Who doesn't try?
I know it's kind of the modern way, isn't it? But he might have a bit of Spanish flair, and I think this is quite a big move for him. I know we're quite a small club, respectively, in the top two leagues, but it's a big move for him. So
this
I'm
story
hoping.
sounds familiar.
Well,
yeah, right.
Bournemouth, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the problem is we're stuffed for money. We don't have any money. The players are. He's going to have to go with the players we've got. There won't be any money in January. There'll be, if they pick up a few freebies, then maybe that'll be it. But it'll be a case this season to stay up will be a good season for us. We're currently second from bottom, 6 points clear of the drop. 6 points deep into the drop zone. So if he can drag us out of that and keep us up, and then have a summer of bringing in his own players and trying to get his own team together, then let's see. All we can do is be hopeful.
Yeah.
Do you think Gareth Ainsworth's part-time role in a rock band had anything to do with his demise at the club?
Well, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because he'd probably say that was his kind of his thing was really that, and he's released his first album in this season. So yeah, maybe he's not quite as. I don't think that's true. I think he's always been committed, but maybe.
I'm only messing. I don't think I've ever seen him out of that leather jacket.
He's always in his wrinkle pickers, in his leather jacket, and his tight jeans. He's a great guy, though, do you know what I mean? Yeah, a massive character, and I think it's a shame for him because when he was so pleased when he got the call up from Wycombe. I saw his interview with the Wycombe players. Saying, I'm sorry to leave you lads, but I've had a great 10 years, but now I'm going to go and smash up the championship with QPR. Hasn't quite worked out that way for him. And I'm sure he won't be out of work for a long time because he's a nice guy and he's genuinely quite good. I just think he was a little bit out of his depth there, not helped by the sort of situation at our club at the moment. So good luck to him, I say.
Yeah, well, part of the reason why I brought this up really was because, Birmingham obviously just got
that's
got Wayne Rooney in. I mean, this is the thing.
John Eustace is a great coach, and they were doing quite well while he was there. So I don't understand that at all.
The flop has started already, isn't it?
I mean,
yeah, totally. Yeah. They've done nothing.
Regressed massively.
Yeah.
But
the reason why I say it is because, as an example for the Premier League, like last year, teams that stuck with their managers, and I'm going to include Gary O'Neill in this for an example, because he was there from like week 2. So you've got Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth, and then I know this seems silly compared to now that had considering the season they are having now, but David Moyes was under pressure at West Ham as an example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People like that, they've stuck with them, and they get out of the zone comfortably, by the end of the season. Yeah. And then teams who are the chopping and changing managers really seem to struggle. Now, historically, I felt like it was the other way round. And I just sometimes now I feel like it's just the whole short-term thinking doesn't really, I don't know, sometimes it makes me, I know everyone's striving for results short-term, but
it's a gamble, isn't it? I think what people are doing is they're just rolling the dice. They're rolling the dice and hoping at some point they come up with something that works and clicks. And then it's that, and it is a gamble. It's do we roll the dice? Do we go for the change, or do we stick with our manager? I think it entirely depends on the owners and the state the club is in. If you can afford to do it and keep hold of a manager, and you're sure that person is right for the club and they're taking it in the right direction, I would always stick with a new manager and let them try and get their system going.
I'm always one for like maximum patience, because I just don't think you can. I don't think you can build the success you want long term if your managers are chopping and changing every couple of seasons.
No, of course not.
Of course not. And I can understand instances where you should change. The feeling around the club is terrible. A bit like, say, I don't know, Conte at Spurs as an example, where you just know the feeling's gone, it's not working.
Toxic.
Not only on the pitch, it's just toxic off the pitch. I can understand that. But while you've got the core of a team that's where the effort is high, even if they're not getting results. And this is where we talk about Bournemouth and Iraola. I was just like, I just don't see why we'd just, regardless, I'd be like, you got to keep him just for the season. I
agree.
And I know that as a fan, I wouldn't want them relegated. Don't get me wrong. But I just think, like sport and football, it's still going to be here in 20, 30 years' time. For a club like Bournemouth, you want to build success on and off the pitch. You want your facilities, your management, obviously your players, everything built. Slow, and it's going to take a lot of time to do that. You can't do that with consistent short-term thinking. I know managers is the easy thing to change, but you're never going to change the culture and the identity and the things you want if you're just going to change it.
No, but I think you're right. I think that's how the managers that come in who do have that mentality about changing the culture of the club as a first point of contact, i.e. making sure the training facilities are up, making sure everyone's on the same page, making sure there's a good youth development system in place, and them going in with that angle. They're the ones that tend to stay, or they keep with them, because it's not just about managing the first team, it's about the whole way that the club is run from top to bottom.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You need the club, the owners, the directors of football, whoever it is, to buy in, exactly. And
yes,
this is my thing, and we'll come on to this potentially if we've got time. But like football as a game is a finite game. You win, you lose, there's a season, etc. But it's going to be here in 20, 30 years' time. And if you want your club to build, you surely, even as a fan base, you wouldn't want you to have really poor seasons, but I'd almost be willing to say, look, almost forget the results to some degree. I know
unfortunately that doesn't wash with the fans, though.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. That's just my opinion. It just seems to be that people are playing the wrong game slightly. It's an infinite thing. It goes on forever. There's always next season and the season after and the season after and the season after.
I think they look at it from a fan's point of view, though. See, they always want to keep the fans happy, and it's all about the fans. And if the fans are unhappy and they're getting cheesed off,
they're always going to be, because it's short term. Everyone just wants results. They want the team to play good football and obviously
it's a tough
win
position,
games.
Isn't it? If all of your fans are booing and shouting and hollering and screaming that they're not happy, then what do you do?
A lot of the time, I think definitely with Bournemouth, I think there's a lot more support for Iriola than I thought, I think where that frustration is now being directed is at people like Neil Blake and Hughes that run the team and are making decisions behind him. And I think when a team goes through as many changes as Bournemouth have, and honestly, it's nowhere near as bad as it could be in terms of that turnover of manager. Look at places like Watford or whatever. It gets to a point where it becomes sack the board rather than sack the manager, doesn't it? Sack the people that are making the decisions rather than sacking that person. The only problem with it is that when you're in Bill Foley's shoes and you've invested as much as you have done, and the fear of relegation for somebody that's never been in that circumstance or understood what the relegation looks like, because he's always done American teams, that NFL teams or whatever that don't have any sort of relegation.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of that is what inevitably, and the money behind it is what drives that decision. And I think what they do is not many teams are as brave as Bournemouth were last year before Bill came in terms of supporting the manager and backing the manager in the deepest, darkest points, where you listed off a few, Josh, at the beginning of this kind of conversation. If you are brave enough to do it and stick your head above the parapet and go, this is how we're going to do it, this is how we stick with it, this is what inevitably is going to happen, then you won't ever get the full backing of everybody. I think what you've got is somebody like Vincent Kompany. I reckon he's probably up there with probably the second, probably if you think top 5 teams at the moment, he's probably like the 6th safest manager in the league.
Probably.
Because they are so dead set on supporting him and doing that and doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, if they stick with him, it will pay off. It will pay off. They might have to be a yo-yo team for a couple of seasons, but they have not invested what Bournemouth have invested in the squad.
But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm almost saying Burnley are doing it right. Like forget whether they go down. Forget whether they struggle in the Championship for 2 seasons afterwards. If they get the things right and they start building correctly, then surely they're just going to successful
long-term improvements.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For the club, not just overall, from top to bottom. And this is where, and then that translates to the pitch.
Yeah. The only difference I see is, from my perspective, I've seen potential in what Kompany's done and is doing. At the moment, from a part-time Bournemouth fan, I can't see what we were promised about Iriola, what we were all told and sold about his rock and roll style of football, full out attacking, everything like that. I don't think we've seen that yet. If that's his fault, if that's somebody else's fault, whatever it may be. But I believe that Burnley are on the right course in terms of sticking with Vincent Kompany.
Yeah,
and if
but
Bournemouth
don't forget,
were to
Burnley have
let
had
Iraola
company.
go, they're on the
but
right
mate,
course.
don't forget, Burnley have had company all for a whole season in the Championship.
That's what I mean.
Promoted.
That's what.
So he's had
point.
his sitting time. Yeah,
I've seen enough from him.
That.
Yeah, I've seen enough from him to believe that he's doing the right thing. At the moment, 9 games in, I haven't seen enough from Iraola, and that's where this is where you flip the coin and you take that red or black gamble and you go stick or twist. Do we go out and try and find somebody that might be able to do it better, or do we trust that we've picked the right person? And I know there's been enough mistakes at that club by Richard Hughes and Neil Blake over the time that there's a good chance they've made a mistake here. Just my opinion, and I think there's a few that will agree with me on that. Whether it's them that get the chopping block or whether it's Iraola that gets the chopping block, I don't know. But I believe there's a mistake somewhere.
I will say that they start with Gary O'Neill. Back end of the season is what did it, got them out. I don't see why they wouldn't stick with Iraola. Like I just don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah,
especially with the money invested.
They've had their fingers burnt by letting O'Neill go. They might go, do you know what? We made a mistake letting him go. Let's try and keep up with this one.
But they've done that. That's where they are at the moment. It's just I'm not in any way consider. I wouldn't even consider for a second getting rid of him. I just wouldn't. Let's see when we're 25 games in, not 9 games in. Yeah, let's just see.
Who else is at risk? Who else is at risk in the Premiership?
Yeah, go on. I'll have it now. Whilst you answer that, Josh, do you think you've seen enough? If it was, and I know it's very difficult to put yourself in that position, but if you're running that club and you've sunk 100 million into that club, has he given you enough confidence? I've
seen enough from the performances on occasions that he will get there. I know it takes time, but I've seen. It's not like Bournemouth have had a couple of games where they haven't really been in it, and I think sometimes the scorelines have flattered other teams. I do, like we were at the Brighton game, mate. Do you think really it was a 3-1 game? It wasn't a 3-1 game, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Like we were there. I think this last weekend, we could have beat Burnley 4-1, something like that. 3-4-1 easy. And I wouldn't have thought that flattered us, as an example. So I've seen it, but there are some too many individual errors in the team, and then that cause these moments. And I think I trust that it will come together. I might be one of a few, but
we'll see.
But I did say I'm extremely patient. So
go on. Here's the numbers on the old sack race. So there might be some names in here that might surprise us. So Paul Heckingbottom is favourite. I thought they might stick with him.
He'll stay. I mean, I would have thought
he's
either
1
Sheffield
to
United or
3
Luton
to be sacked.
I'd be very surprised.
The bookies don't often get this wrong, so this is what my opinion, having seen this before on the odds. Then Iraola's 7-1, then Erik ten Hag is 8-1.
Yeah, but he's always going to be up there. It doesn't matter who you put in that Man United seat; they'll be top of the list. Tell you.
Very surprisingly, you've got Vincent Kompany next, so it's gone completely against what I thought, in him being like the 5th or 6th favourite. Then you've got Poch. Then you've got
he's not going anywhere.
Marco Silva, David Moyes, Gary O'Neill's 33-1, and Steve Cooper's 33-1. Then the rest of the least likely is De Zerbi. Then
not Pep Guardiola.
Then Pep second. They're all the same odds, to be fair. Mikel Arteta, Pep, and De Zerbi are all 200-1. And then the rest are all in there and amongst there. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that.
There. Anyway,
yeah, he's 150-1, so not a huge deal difference. But that's an interesting topic and one to certainly watch. I think normally we've had a Premier League sacking by now. Somebody might tell me otherwise, but I think it's on the cusp. I think there's one around the corner, but we'll see.
I'd be very surprised if Luton sacked their manager. They're just
enjoying their season. I wouldn't see Luton or Sheffield United sacking them. They just know, don't they? They just know where they are. Yeah, they just stick with them regardless, I think. And it's the same. I think that actually 3 promoted teams are the least likely to sack their managers.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, anyway, should we move?
with time ticking along, there's one thing that I wanted to bring up. I know that we might skip a few of our planned subjects, but one thing that I think is quite important that I wanted to get your opinion on and kind of share mine on is the politics in sport. So a lot of us would have been aware that Phil Billing took a shirt off and I don't think got booked for because he had a
he did
t-shirt on underneath. He did get booked for it, yeah.
Yeah, he got booked for it, yeah.
Which said, "We are the world, we are the children." So, obviously, going on with the current situation in Palestine and kind of sharing his political view on it. He has also, I've seen recently on his social media since that, started up a GoFundMe, Just Giving page to do donations. So I think he's doing the right things. The next one I want to talk about before we dive in and give our opinions on it is Mohamed Salah. So he came out, I think, a couple of weeks back now when it all first kicked off, saying the people of Gaza need food, water, medical supplies urgently. I'm calling on the world leaders to come together to prevent the further slaughter of innocent souls. Humanity must prevail. And the third and final one that has got that's kicked off today, and I think it's got himself in a little bit of hot water with the FA and his club, is Hamza Chowdhury. So Chowdhury wrote, "From river to sea," with an image of the Palestine flag on Twitter. He later then apologised and said, unfortunately, it's been misinterpreted, and the club have also come out and apologised on his behalf for him sharing that image. He also, when I believe he's ex-United, is he, Chowdhury? You tell me, Josh, is he?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
No, sorry. Because they mentioned today on the radio about him running around after the FA Cup final with a Palestine flag, and that was when he was at Leicester. So when Leicester won the FA Cup those years back. So and he also got reprimanded for his behaviour that day. And the final one is James McLean, who has been brought back up again with all this bits and pieces happening, and obviously very close to Remembrance Day. Very, very publicly refusing to wear a poppy on his shirt and have anything to do with it. So with those, just 4 examples, and there's loads more. There's somebody in Italy that's been banned for a period of time for sharing his political views. How do you two feel about players using the platforms they have to share their political views? And do you think they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing?
For me, I don't have a problem with it. I think
nor do I.
They are in a position where there's a lot of people all around the world watching them. They're in very influential positions. But when you're talking about humanitarian crisis especially, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. They're using their platform. I mean, obviously, if it's extremism on one side or another, then you'd have to argue that that's not really the place to do it. But to show unity with people who are, being I don't want to get too deep into it, but people who have been oppressed or situations of war where there are humanitarian crises. That are totally innocent people stuck in the middle of it. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's good, and I think they should do more of it. And hopefully, then they can, the powers that be will get off their arses and actually do something to help these poor innocent souls.
I think ultimately, my view on it would simply be, their opinion is no less valid than mine or yours.
Yeah,
the difference is simply that they are in the spotlight a little bit more by virtue of their work. That's simply it, And yes, they have to be more careful potentially because of the number of people that obviously pay attention to their or the following they have. I think there's an element of just being sensible on some level, but that doesn't make their political views or their opinions or how they share it any less valid than anyone else. And I think people have to remember that. If I sat in the pub and just had this conversation with you guys and I had a view and I said the same thing as Philip Billing, for example, doesn't, it's like no one's going to say anything or do much about it. We could have a discussion, but just because he's put it on a shirt, etc. I mean, I don't think there's any fuss made of it, to be fair. I don't know. You'll have to tell me, Jack, as far as I can tell.
No,
but
it definitely was brought, and this is obviously as as you well know, I spend a lot of time listening to the radio because I'm in the car all the time, and it was brought up, and it was our friend Simon Jordan at TalkSport that I think before in our kind of preamble, just to kind of let people behind the curtain, that when we spoke about it, one thing that I think Ben might have mentioned, people that often have a problem with politics being in football are often the people that have quite a far right opinion or have a
or any extreme opinion.
Extreme, I think that's a fair point.
Extreme, maybe not far right specifically, but just extreme opinion.
Provocative opinion as well. And he's certainly one of those that almost does it intentionally to, as we well know, with that place to get people calling in and get people listening. I think my stance on it are exactly the same as what you two, but one thing again we spoke about before was my concern is, and from their perspective, is that they get themselves in a little bit of difficulty with not bringing it up when there's other situations happening. I think when you do it for one and you don't then do it for another situation, another crisis, whatever may be happening, and I agree that it's not them not caring, but I think you do it for one and you're so outspoken about one, why not the other? And also with the situation in Gaza and whatever else, back in, was it October the 10th or whenever the kind of terrorist attacks happened? What stopped them from doing it right away? Why was it only when the war started that they do it? Because there's killing on both sides from the start. Those, without getting too deep into the politics of it all, you put yourself in a difficult situation and there'll always be fingers pointed to go, okay, you think that's the most important thing, but what about this horrible thing that's happening? And what about this horrible thing that's happening?
My only counter-argument to that, and it's not really a counter-argument so much, it's just a clarification, is that sometimes I feel like maybe it's, it's just based on the fact that they might be just more read up, more clued in. It might be more personal to them personally, or their family, or extended family, etc. And so therefore they feel a bit more empowered to say something, and it can maybe carry a bit more weight. And that might not be the case for the myriad of other things out in the world that maybe don't have quite the same personal connection. Maybe they aren't quite as educated in it and don't feel comfortable making a statement. I think that's one major part that people have to. And also sometimes I think it's just their personal opinion. You know, I might be educated on something, have an opinion on it, and I might give it to you guys in the pub, for example, but that doesn't mean I know anything about something else that's happening in the far side of the world that's just as horrific, if not more. And, you know, I might just be completely unaware of it, let alone have any opinion on it. It doesn't mean I have to clarify my opinion on every injustice or various other thing going on in the world. As soon as I make one clarification.
You in the pub isn't going to be pulled up by me in the pub chatting to you about it.
Yeah, exactly. So
they will get pulled up for that, and it has been, and it has.
But that's unfair, though. That's unfair, though, isn't it?
But that's the spotlight that they put them. Yeah. They choose to stick their head above the parapet and mention it, or not. And unfortunately, I agree with what they've done, and I think it takes a lot of bollocks to do what they've done. But at the same time, they're now getting the comeuppance from that, unfortunately, and getting the backlash from it, which you can't do right for doing wrong in a lot of cases. And they can't go, what about this? What about this? What about this? The best example I can remember of something similar to this, it was really extreme in the US. There was a big situation that I think Jay-Z and Oprah come out and said they're raising money for a certain aid. I can't remember exactly what it was, just as an example. And then the backlash was the billions of pounds that both of those had, they could wipe out what they were asking for without it'd be like change down the back of the seat. Yeah. I think it was like 5 or 6 million that they were asking for to try and raise. And it's very difficult for people in less fortunate circumstances to accept what they're saying as genuine in those sorts of circumstances. Very extreme example against it, but that's the type of backlash that you can get when you step up and have something to say, and whether they care what other people think or not. And I think they're doing the right thing. There's always going to be that sad truth that people have something negative to say about something good you've done.
I think there's a lot to say about raising awareness, though. These guys that are in these positions, and it can be any, it could not be sport, it can be entertainment, it can be wherever. The people that have these positions of power and that they do now in fame and their support all around the world, they're in a position where they can influence. And there's plenty of people who've got their heads buried in the sand who don't know that these things are going on. They might not watch the news, they might not listen to the radio, they don't know what's going on, but they do watch football, for example, or they do listen to music. I mean, if you take a brilliant example is Bob Geldof and Live Aid. Nobody knew what was going on over in Ethiopia. No one knew what the crises were over there, and he and a few others brought that to light, and they raised billions and are still raising millions to try and bring better lives to people less fortunate than us. And unless people in those positions do that, things will never change. So for me, I think it's massively important that these guys do step up and say, this is what's going on. We need to do something about it, because if we don't, then thousands upon thousands of millions of people, innocent people, are going to die or lose, and for me, I wish more people would do it. Personally.
Yeah. I'm glad we spoke about it, and I think I don't want to get too deep, but there is horrible things happening, and we as a club have supported many causes before, and I think at some point we may have to do the same again, and chime together and do what we can as a small group to help whoever we can.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I think if you're okay, Josh, do you want to do your FPL roundup? I know that you and I have got to dart pretty quickly to football relatively soon. So
I'll just keep it quite brief. Basically, almost everything I said last week is valid again this week on some way. I say that like I'm an expert.
Guru.
You had a good week last week.
Yes, I have had a good week. I'm back up to second in that league, and
he started to flounder, didn't he? I had a good week, so I was like, oh, where am I? Oh, look, I'm getting towards the top of the league. And then I had a really bad week again, so dropped back down again. It's nice, though. It's nice that everyone's close and we're kind of overtaking each other and dropping down.
I will say my week was based a little on luck. I say that because I missed the deadline because I was in the car. I forgot it was a Friday night deadline. How terrible. And as such, I had Haaland captain over Salah, which I would have put Salah as captain. That was a nice benefit to me. And I had Doggy, who got substituted for, in my case, Gehi, who only got 1 point, so that's fine. And I had Turner in goals, De Variola, so I lost out on a point there. But it was mainly the Haaland captain bit that I just lucked out on.
Fortunate.
But having said that, everything is get right when you play Manchester United. So it's just, So target them.
Who have you got next?
I actually don't know. How terrible
you carry on. Oh, look, it's Fulham. Just looked, it's Fulham.
Yeah. Okay, well, that should be an easy loss. So I would. So just for the FPL side, targeting teams: Aston Villa, so Watkins, Cash, Diaby, Liverpool, Salah, Tsimikas, Trent, Darwin, maybe, and I would avoid Luis Diaz until he's back.
For obvious reasons,
from the terror that's happening in his life. Then we've got West Ham. The only person I would target is Jarrod Bowen. I would even sell James Ward-Prowse because of his new role, if you have him. Arsenal, Saka, Martinelli, Saliba are the people I'm comfortable with. I know a lot of people are getting Nketiah in, but I would avoid it because he's got Newcastle and then Jesus should be back. So I have a feeling that it's going to be a bit of you've missed the points. Don't go points chasing. He had a beautiful hat trick, but it's too late.
Yeah, so, fair play if you had him in your team for that.
Yeah, fair enough. And then the other people potentially, so Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace, Cole Palmer from Chelsea, even though the fixtures are really bad, he's still really cheap and on penalties. Hwang Hee-chan from Wolves, because they've got some good... Yeah, and they've got some good fixtures coming, although Pedro Neto is injured. So that's maybe good, maybe bad for him.
Is a Wang Hee-chan one that is almost similar to Nketiah, where you go in you may have missed the boat there with it, or do you think he's scoring more?
No, because they've got...
he's playing from midfield now, though, isn't he? Isn't he listed as a midfielder?
Yeah, he's a cheap midfielder.
He was a striker last year.
So he is a 5.5 million midfielder. So Cole Palmer's 5. You've people like that. So he's cheap. He's an enabler. But they've got in the next 6 games, they've got Sheffield United, Burnley, Fulham, Notts Forest. There's an example.
There's points there.
And then they do have Spurs and Arsenal, so in sandwiched in the middle. So he's someone I can rotate. So I'll play against Sheffield United this week, and I'll play against Fulham. I'll play him against Burnley. I'll play him against Forest, and then the other ones I'll just have 4 at the back. So I'll play Mark Gahey, Dan Burn, Simicast, and whoever else I've got. So some weeks will be 4-4.
Triple captain in Haaland against Bournemouth? That's the question.
I would avoid doing it until
don't triple him till
double game weeks.
Double game weeks later on in the season. I mean, it's not telling
that, though, isn't he? Surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that people were talking about selling Haaland last week, and now all of a sudden, all the people who did are like begging to get him back. That's good. Yeah, again, as you say, play Man United, score goals. So the people, as I say, so those are the people listed to potentially. Brian Mbuemo is someone I'd look at again.
Oh my God! How lucky was his goal?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Oh my God! Who was the lad from Brighton? Depay? Is that his name?
I don't know.
Don't know.
Oh, so basically, Brentford's goal was Sanchez went up to go for a header, and he left the empty goal. And Depay, the one that used to play for Brighton, the striker that was awful.
Mope.
That's it. Mope. Yeah, sorry, Mope was through on goal and literally just passed it with an empty goal in front of him to Mbuemo. And I reckon he's triple captain him or something.
Yeah,
right. Little bet on there.
I was fuming when he did it.
So he's one to look at, but I would consider that game week 14 onwards, where his fixtures are brilliant. And he's also got a double game week in 18. So, and then the people to avoid, as I mentioned, Nketiah, Joaquim Anderson, because Gahey's much cheaper. João Pedro from Brighton, right, and any other real Brighton players other than Mitoma. And then if you have like Odegaard, Gabriel, Estepinian, Mitoma, I would keep them.
Odegaard and Gabriel
still
will be back.
Injured though.
Estepinian should be back. He's been training, but his status hasn't changed. I think I would
suspended anyway.
I would just keep. I don't know, honestly. I would just keep an eye on that one. But he should be back, if not this week, next week. So
that's good to know. I've got him in a draft team, so I didn't want to get rid of him. So he's been benched.
And Mitoma's the only Brighton player I'd get, but they're a good team to have. Anyway, that's it, really. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
cool, man.
Thanks for another great episode, chaps.
Space. Yeah.
Very, very good.
Quick one. This week, football round. Who we're playing this week? We're playing you, Purples. Blues against Purples this week, Jack.
It is, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Don't be Neil Mopes and pass it to the other team, in the confusion of colours.
we both know I don't pass in front of goal.
You'd be lucky if Jack passes at all, to be fair.
Yeah,
no, that's not true. That's not true.
Only if it's a 60-yard worldie.
Exactly,
Hollywood hater comes out.
Do Phil Billing or Harry Kane, by the way. Harry Kane's goal.
Yeah,
what a goal.
Yeah.
Mate, I think it's the best one I've ever seen from over half, and I'm not joking.
I think it's the deepest one I've ever seen.
Because
only net as well,
Beckham's.
Yeah, dead straight, centre of the goal, didn't move left or right, hit the back of the net before it hits the ground. Just so effortless.
Class.
Yeah, fair play to him.
I do have to go because I'm definitely...
Yeah, you crack on,
absolutely,
Right, love you boys. Speak to you soon.
Cheers, boys. See you Friday.
Take care.
Bye.